Hello, everyone. Hello. Please let me know if I'm audible. Hello. Hi, everyone. Please let me know if I'm audible. All right. All right. So, hey, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of the front-end web development bootcamp, Vibe Coding 101 by SmartEd. I'm really happy to see so many of you showing up again today. That tells me you are serious about learning, and trust me, the real fun begins now. Yesterday, we laid the foundation by learning HTML and CSS, the core building blocks of any website. Today, we are stepping into something powerful and industry relevant, which is JavaScript and React JS. React is what companies like Facebook, Instagram, Netflix, and countless startups are using to build their web applications. It's not just a library, it's a mindset shift in how we think about building UIs. By the end of today and tomorrow, you'll be building real interactive components and you'll start to see how front-end development becomes much cleaner and more scalable with React. Now, I'm using, again, I'm giving a disclaimer, I'm using a monitor. So on the right is my monitor and the left is my camera. So you'll see me switching between both the screens, so don't get confused. A few quick reminders before we begin. This bootcamp is completely free, and we are going to keep bringing more of these to you. So, after the bootcamp, if you receive a quick call, just know it's our way of asking for support to help reach more learners like you. Spread the word if you're finding this valuable. Our next bootcamp is going to be on artificial intelligence. If you're interested in that, make sure to select a yes on the attendance form, which you'll receive today. And speaking of which, to get your certificate for this bootcamp, attend all the sessions live. Come online every day at 8:15. Fill the attendance form every day once you're done with the session. It will be shared anytime during the session. So stick around till the end. So are you ready to level up from static websites to dynamic UIs? Let's jump into the world of JavaScript and React JS. So before we begin, let's just do a quick overview of what we have learned yesterday. So yesterday we went through HTML, we saw the HTML boilerplate and what all components are there in HTML, all about the tags, elements, how to add links, how to add heading tags, how to create a table, how to add images. Then we moved over to CSS where we learned more about styling our website, making it more pleasant to the eyes, making it more, beautiful. Where we learned how to add all the different three methods of CSS. So basically, we learned about inline style of adding CSS, then internal, external, and we also learned all about different selectors for selecting certain elements and applying style to specifically that particular element. So, with that out of the way, now let us learn how we can add some interactivity using JavaScript. Now, similar to CSS, we have two ways to include JavaScript into our website. One is internal script and using a script tag. Before we move ahead, let's just create everything from scratch so that you guys have a revision. So for an HTML file, what we do is we write index or any name that you prefer with a dot HTML extension. Here we have our HTML file. You can use an exclamation mark and then just hit tab to complete the entire boilerplate. The title will be something new and let's create an empty div with an ID of box. Okay, so this is another shortcut that I've used just now. I'll explain it. So whenever you want to create an element, you just write the first name and hit enter. But let's say you want to add certain class or IDs to this element. What you can do is you can write div, and then if you want to write a class associated to it, you can use dot and then specify the class name. So let's say box. I hit enter, and you see I've got a class of box associated with a div element. Another thing is IDs, right? So what we do is we write a div and then for ID, the selector is hashtag. So we use a hashtag and then we write box. We hit tab and you see we have ID associated to a div element. Now, how to add internal JavaScript? So previously you knew, right, that we add a CSS onto inside the head tags of our head opening and closing just before the closing head tag. Why? Because we wanted our styles to load up first before even the body loads up. So when the body loads up, it is loaded up beautifully without seeing the ugly side of it, right? So we used to add our basically CSS here. But for JavaScript, since it is functionality, we first want to see our website up and running, and then we will be interacting with the website. So we add JavaScript just before the closing body tag. So for an internal JavaScript, how do you add an internal JavaScript? You simply use the script tags, hit tab to complete, and then you can write your JavaScript code inside this. Okay. So for example, we can console.log and we want to say, let's say hello. We hit save and we open this file here. You see nothing right now because we are logging this in our console. So let's go to our console. How you can go to our console? You can inspect this page, elements, and then you find the console tab right here. You see, we get an hello printed right here. Another way to do is you go here and then you go to the developer tools, more tools, developer tools. Again, this opens up and you see hello being printed right here. And next is again very similar to how we used to add a CSS using an external file just to maintain code hygiene and more modularity to your website. We add, let's say, index.js. So for JavaScript, we use a .js file extension. We hit enter, we have a JavaScript file. What changes do we have to make in our code? We simply write script and then we give a source attribute to basically tell where our file is inside our folder. So we use dot slash to navigate into our folder, and here we have index.js. JS. Now we can do the same thing. We can console log. So let's console log something else so that you understand the difference. We'll write hello world. We'll hit save for this file. And again for this file, we hit refresh. And you see, we have hello world in our console. Any difficulty so far? Screen is not visible, sir. Let me see. I think screen should be visible to you guys. Is it not visible right now also? Okay, let me just remove and try it again. Okay, is the screen visible now? All right, thank you. So do you want me to repeat how to add internal and external JavaScript, or is it clear? Was it visible? Okay, so I'll just do a quick overview. For internal, if you want to add internal JavaScript, you will use the same script tags and you'll write your code right here. So we can do console.log and we'll use hello. We don't need the source as of now. We hit save and we hit refresh. Yep. And you see hello being printed right here. And if you want to add an external JavaScript file similar to CSS, you create a new file with a .js extension, and you can write all of your JavaScript code right here. And to link this file to our HTML, you simply need to remove everything between this. Just add a source to your script tag, a source attribute. Okay, so dot slash to navigate in the same folder, index.js, we hit save, we hit refresh, and hello world is printed here, right? So using console.log, we can easily output our content on the console, as we can see right here. and debug our code application and maybe get the content of certain variables. Okay, so with that said, variables is something that we'll talk about first. So you can create a variable and store any type of content in it. So let's go ahead and create some variables. So variable, we can store a number in our variable. Let's store 10. We can store a string. String is nothing but a combination of letters, you can say. Okay, so hello world. Make sure to end every statement with a semicolon. That is how the syntax is for JavaScript. We can also store a Boolean value. So is rad true, and then close it. Okay, so you can see something unique right here. We are using first letter is small and then every consecutive words start with a capital letter. This is called camel casing. So anytime you write something in JavaScript, we'll have to use a camel casing. Why? Because this is a standard industry practice. Every other developer in this domain expects you to follow this particular convention. All right. Now, let's say we want this string to be displayed on our on our web page right now, uh, because our web page pretty much does not display anything. So let's say we wanted this string to be displayed in our box, this particular div here. How do we do that? First, we can say that. So for doing that, we can say document dot get element by ID, because why? Because we have an ID associated to our this particular div. Okay. And as you can see, we have camel casing right here also. Get is small, first letter is small, then every consecutive word starts with a capital letter. Get element by ID, and which ID? So we want the box ID, and then we want to change the inner HTML to string. We hit save, just verifying the ID here. So it is a small box, small letters, small case. Control hit save, we hit refresh, and you see we can display whatever we can change whatever was inside this particular div. It was empty, now it contains hello world. So we can add text, we can also add this number there. So we can write, call this variable number. So variable is nothing but an empty container. We can store anything inside it. Okay, we hit save, we hit refresh, we have a number. We can also perform some arithmetic operations here. So like any other coding language, HTML and CSS does not have any logic, so as to say. You cannot perform arithmetic operations. You cannot do logical operations there. But with JavaScript, since we're adding functionality to our website, this is what we get with JavaScript. We can do all sorts of logic, perform all sorts of calculation using JavaScript. We hit save, we hit refresh, and now it turns to 25. All right. So you can do all sorts of math arithmetics, comparison operators inside of JavaScript. You can also perform conditional arithmetics. Say if this condition were true, we want to perform action one, otherwise we want to perform action two. So let's go ahead and create an if statement. All right. So we'll remove this. Let's say if, and so I'm showing you the syntax, and then we write the condition for the if statement here. So let's say if my number is equals to 10, uh, and we write the output here, console dot log, and we want to print hello world. After this, so if this condition were true, print this, else you print console dot log by world. Okay. And yeah, don't forget to close this with semicolons. All right. We hit save, we hit refresh, and you see hello world is being printed. Why? Because my number is equal to 10. So let's say we change the number to 5, which is not our variable here. So the number variable right here stores 10, but we are saying if number equal to 5, is it equal to 5? No. So what should be printed? By world. We hit save, we hit refresh, and you see it changes to by world. Now, the cool thing about JavaScript is that you can run this on your browser itself. Okay, so we can run JavaScript directly here also. We can write variable and age is equals to 21, let's say. We hit enter. Then we say we can use another if statement there. So if so that is the benefit of having a code editor. See, if we write if here and we do this, it automatically has both opening and closing braces. But since we don't have an editor right here, we have to manually type everything out. So if let's say age is greater than equal to 21, then we write the output here, console.log, um, again opening bracket. So you can make a lot of mistakes, right? That is why we use a code editor. We print um, wrong statement, all right? Greater than equal to 21. So it can be equal to and it is equal to. So we don't correct, we'll write correct. And we close this bracket and then we close this curly braces right here. And as we hit enter, we're not writing else statement. We just want to check whether the age is 21 or greater than 21 or not. So it is showing me correct. So this is the advantage. You can write JavaScript directly on the browser itself. So you can do a lot of programming in JavaScript here itself. Next, let's talk about loops because every good application has loops. So loops run, what are loops? Loops run through a certain piece of code a certain amount of times. So let's create our first for loop. For that, let's comment this out. You can use a command or control and a forward slash to comment everything out at once. Okay, so we'll create a for loop first. We'll create a variable I which starts from 0, and then we hit a comma, sorry, semicolon, and let's say I is less than 10, semicolon. Every time I is less than 10, increase I by 1 unit. All right. And then we write the output here. We can write console.log I. So what happens is first I starts from 0 and uh, it goes on and prints I. Okay. Now another time again it goes on. So now I is 0. Next time I plus plus means I will become 1, and it will keep on repeating itself until when? Until I is less than 10. Once it reaches 10, it will stop. Okay. We hit save, we hit refresh, and you see we start from 0, then we go to 1. So every time I is incremented by 1 unit, then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And after 9, when it becomes 10, this condition is fulfilled and the loop ends here. Okay. Um, any problems so far? All right. Attendance link. Guys, focus on learning. Attendance link will be shared. All right. So you can loop through functionalities in your application, loop through arrays and object. So since we're talking about arrays, let me go ahead and show you how this would work. So we can create an array right here. We can create, let's say, fruits. Okay. Equals to angle brackets, sorry, square brackets. And then in an array, we contain different items. Array is a larger container where you can, have multiple items in a single container. You can understand array in simple languages, in simple language like this. So we have, let's say, apple. Then we have banana. And don't forget to separate each array item with a comma. We have banana, then we have an orange, then we have our favorite fruit, mango. We hit save. Now variable I is less than starts from 0. Now this the length should be fruits dot length. Uh, g- this I should actually be less than fruits dot length, and then I is incremented every time, and then we can console log groceries, sorry, fruits, and index I. Okay. So what is the logic right here? Variable I again starts from 0, and how much it will go? It will go to the length of the item, the fruits. So the length of item is 4, so I will be less than 4 here, or whatever we may increase the number of fruits here. So we create this as a dynamic element here. It will automatically get the length of the items in fruit, and I will be less than, and every time I will be incremented at by 1 unit. So we are logging fruit at position 1, then we are looping again, and fruit at position 2, looping again, fruit at position 3. We hit save and we hit refresh, and you see we get all the fruits listed one by one. Okay, so this is how the syntax of an array looks like. Now let's go ahead and talk about functions next. So function you can think of as a machine where you put something inside and you get something out, or you press a start button on a machine and something comes as output. In this case, we are going to create a function um, and call that as list fruits. All right. So we create function starts with a small letter, and then we use the camel casing fruits. All right. And then we have the function right here. So what this function does is it will return this every time. Okay. Did I do any mistake? Yeah, it is not. All right. We don't need a return here. It should be a simple for loop running. All right. So inside this, we are going to add our for loop, and we'll get rid of this. We'll comment this out. Now, what happens is we can press every time we press a button, this function will run and print all the fruits out. So we save this, go on the browser and hit refresh. Nothing is printed. Why? Because even though we have our machine or function ready, here we are not actually calling it. So let's go ahead and call that out. So we can call that out by simply typing the function's name and then using these brackets with a semicolon. We hit save and we hit refresh, and you see everything is printed out now. So functions make our life easy. If we have to perform a certain action on and on again, we simply go ahead and call that function, and that's it. There is one last thing that I would like to talk about, that are event listeners. All right. So let's say anytime someone clicks on a box right here. So let's say we have a box. Let's say let's say every time someone clicks on this particular text, we want to maybe alert the user about something. Okay, and you see we will get this alert very soon. How do we create? We comment everything out. So how do we add an event listener? So first we want to add an event listener to this particular element right here, this div, okay, and which has an ID of box. So we'll write document again because we are querying for that particular element with that particular ID. So get element by ID right here. What ID? We want the box, and we want to add an event listener. All right. And what are we looking for? We are looking for a click. So we'll write click, and every time something is clicked, we will call a particular function. Okay. So our function's written with open and closing curly braces, and then sorry, round braces, and then we have a curly braces inside which we have the action that the function is going to perform. So alert, I got clicked. We hit save and then we hit refresh, and see, as soon I as soon as I clicked on this, I'll get an alert. All right. So in JavaScript, you have this alert feature also. We can simply use this to give out alerts, and this is how we add an event listener. So you're going to use event listener throughout your applications to create functionality. So when a user clicks or user hovers, or when any kind of functionality happens in an application, you'll be using this quite a bit. And with this, we have learned the basic overview of web development and laid our foundation for React. Any doubts so far? Because we are going to start React very soon. Okay, okay, all right, all right. So now that we have a foundation of web development, we are ready to start learning React. You learn everything you need to know about React from basics to all the way to advanced concepts. So by the end of this section, you'll be able to build fast and scalable applications with React. I'll try to keep this section very comprehensive, organized, and easy to follow. Also, you won't need any prior knowledge of React to get started. Everything you need to know is right here. So you won't need to jump back and forth between tutorials. Now let's jump in and get started. But yeah, before we get started, let's discuss what you'll need to know to get started. You don't need to know React, that's for sure, that I've already said to take this particular bootcamp. But a basic understanding of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is required that we have already covered. If you're comfortable using these languages, then you are in a great position, and I would highly recommend everyone to follow along so that the learning is smooth and efficient. Now, throughout this course, we'll be using TypeScript. What is TypeScript? TypeScript is nothing but a superset of JavaScript that adds static typing to the language. Essentially, it helps us, catch errors earlier in the development process, which can help us save time and headache down the road. Don't worry, you don't have to know TypeScript. I'll teach you everything from scratch. Hold your hand and teach everything from scratch. With this out of the way, we can finally dive into learning React. So let's get a little bit of background. What is React? React is basically a JavaScript library for building dynamic and interactive user interfaces. It was created by Facebook in 2011, and it is currently the most widely used JavaScript library for front-end development. So if you want jobs in front-end development, you should know how to confidently build applications using React. But why was React created? We already had JavaScript, we have HTML, CSS, so we create structure, we add styling to it, and then we can add functionality also. So why did we need React? Well, as you know, as every web page is loaded on the browser takes that HTML code and creates a tree-like structure called the document object model, or DOM for short. Where did we see DOM lately? So this is where we are querying the DOM, right? Document. So this is, I'll just show you how the document object model looks like. So you'll get a better understanding, and you might be able to relate. Okay. Okay. So this is how a DOM looks like. I'll just open this file. Okay. I think I'll just zoom in. Okay, you can see, right? So we have the root element HTML. So what the browser basically does is it takes your HTML file and creates a document object model, or the DOM, which is a tree-like structure of your HTML document. So how everything is linked. We have an HTML element, root element. Inside this, we have the head and the body elements. Inside the head element, we have the title, we have text inside the title. This is how a tree-like structure are created, and these are different branches, and these particular things here are nodes. Now, inside this allows JavaScript to basically change the page content in response to page interactions. So what did we do? We interacted with the page. We did an event list. We added an event list. We clicked on this particular box, and every time we clicked, it changed something inside our HTML document to be able to get this alert. All right. For example, we can send out alerts. We can hide an element when a button is clicked. Now, this can be achieved using plain vanilla JavaScript as we are doing right now. Meaning vanilla JavaScript just means without using any third-party tools, just pure JavaScript. Now, as our application grows, working with DOM can become quite complex and challenging to manage. This is where React comes into play. With React, we don't have to worry about querying and updating, all the DOM elements one by one. Uh, we describe a web page using reusable small components in React, and React takes care of creating and updating DOM elements, querying the particular DOM element, and then we are updating it. All right, DOM element, and then we are updating it. All right, so we don't need to do this. We create reusable small components, and then React takes care of creating and updating DOM elements. So components, what are components? These are basically uh, reusable, modular, and better organized codes. How? How is that happening? We'll see that later in this course. Let us look at a real world example first to understand uh, how what are components. All right. How what are components? All right. So we'll go to YouTube. Okay. We'll open up this link. See here is you have this navigation bar on the top. You have a side panel here, and then you have all of these card components inside in the main area, right? We can build each of these sections as separate components. So this side panel will be a separate component. This navigation bar will be a separate component. This navigation bar will be a separate component. And then this main area, this grid of videos will be a separate component. Now in this grid, each video or with a captions button, all right? So that's another component in itself. So inside, so main area is component, and then inside this main area, these video cards, this grid section is another component. Can build all of these components individually. Let me just resize it. All right. Okay. We can build all of these components individually, and with the app, bring the root with the root bringing everything together. So the root will combine all of these different components into a single web page. All right. Essentially, a React application is nothing but a tree of components with the app bringing the root everything together. Now, let's set up our environment and get a feel of what it's like to build an application with React. So, before we get started, to follow along, you'll need Node version 16 or higher at least. To check, what you can do is you can open up your terminal. So, I'll just open up my terminal. Here is my terminal. To check the node version on your machine, you can simply say node dash v, node space dash v, and you get the version of node right here. Mine is 20.12.2. If you don't have node already installed, you can go to node.js official website and you can download a long-term version, long-term support version, LTS version right here, and install it and then get started. All right. I'll just check for any doubt. Okay. All right. So you might be using a newer version also. That is totally fine. Nothing changes for this bootcamp. For code editor, again, we'll be using the same Visual Studio Code editor. You are free to use any other code editor. But if you are using VS Code, I strongly recommend you to use the Prettier extension for formatting your code. So you can go here, you can search for Prettier, hit enter, and you'll get this particular extension, which is already installed for me. Once you have this, what you can do is go to settings from here, file, and then, uh, sorry, code, and then settings. And then in here, search for um, format, save, uh, sorry, format on save. And just check this box, all right? Put a check mark here, and then you're good to go. All right, so we will return back to our terminal. Okay, okay. With all of that, now we are ready to create our first React app. There are two ways to create a React app. First is using a Create React App or CRA. We can use the official tool provided by the React team. Secondly, we can also use another method using Wheat. It's getting increasingly popular these days because it's faster and gives us smaller bundle sizes. Everything will make sense as we proceed learning React. So first I'll CD into the required folder. CD is just into move down the hierarchy. So let's say there is a folder X. Inside that folder, we have A, B, C. Then inside folder A, we have 1, 2, 3. All right. So from X, if you want to go into B, you write CD B. So inside my root folder, I have the downloads folder, downloads. And then inside downloads, I have this Smart Ed Bootcamp folder. I'll go into that. And now we can get started. So here in the terminal window, I'm currently on my desktop. We can navigate into the required folder using CD if you are in the same level of hierarchy, or what you can do is you can simply do this on your desktop wherever this terminal window opens you. Because navigation is another different topic which will require some time to teach. You can simply watch a YouTube video of how to navigate between folders in the terminal window. So to create a React app using Vite, all you have to do is write npm and small create Vite at the rate React latest, sorry, latest, or you can write enter the exact version you want to install. I will let this be at latest. Now hit enter and npm. So it will ask you for the permission of whether you want to install or not. For me, it is already done. You'll simply need to type a Y. It is a very simple process. And then it will ask you for the project name. All right. Uh, Project name. So by default, a Vite project is by default, but you can change it to anything like I'll simple name. I'll use a React app. Since we are creating an application using React, I'll use this. Hit enter again. Next, we need to select is the framework. So using Vite, we can create any kind of JavaScript project. And to navigate between the frameworks, you can use up and down arrow keys. So for now, we are using React. We'll hit enter. Next, we need to select a language. We have multiple options. We are going to go ahead with TypeScript in this bootcamp, as said earlier. We hit enter again. And now, next, good. So, like the project setup is ready now. Next, we need to go into this folder, install all third-party dependencies, and run our server. So, let's cd into our React app folder, cd React app that we just created. We're inside this folder. So you will get all the different commands that you need to run in order to finally get your server up and running. Okay, so once we are inside this folder, now we need to install all the third-party npm dependencies. So you can write npm install or simply I is short for install. We hit enter and it has started downloading all the dependencies or all the dependent um, basically libraries and folders that will be required to do this. Okay. All right. Now we need to open this project into our favorite code editor, which is the VS Code. So for opening that directly from your terminal, the shortcut is you write code and then space, give a dot, hit enter. And it has opened up for you. Now we can again fix it on the right. We'll close our previous VS Code and we'll jump into this. All right. We can also close this terminal. If this shortcut of code space dot does not work for you, what you can do is you can simply open up your Finder or File Explorer and drag the React app folder into VS Code and it will open up like this for you. Now here in VS Code, we can open an embedded terminal using Control plus backtick. So control plus backtick and all right, control plus backtick, and you see we have a terminal window here. If this does not work for you, you can simply go to terminal and click on new terminal. You see the shortcut right here. Okay. Now to run our server, we type, sorry, Copilot. Why is this? Yeah. Okay. So to run our server, we need to write npm run dev. We hit enter. Now this has launched our server at this address, localhost, and this is the port number 5173. It can be different for you. Uh, do not worry, it can be totally different for you because we are working on different machines. It is just saying that our server or our website is running on the port, localhost port 5173. Just open this address. To open this address, use command and this, then click on this particular link. All right, I think it will be opening here. It is opening on a different browser. I'll just simply drag that here. All right. Okay. I think everything is running. Yeah. Now, and next we are going to create our first React component. So this is our how our website currently looks like, and it is running on localhost port number 5173. Good. Now we have our entire setup ready. So this is our project loaded in VS Code. Let me give you a brief overview of the files and folders here. So these were the files and folders that were installed when we typed in npm I and pressed hit and enter. First, we have the node modules folder. It will contain a lot of files here. All right. This is where all the third-party libraries like React and other tools are installed. You'll never have to touch this. Next, what we have is the public folder. This is where the public assets of the application exists, like all the images, all the videos, all the public assets, so logos, text files, etc. Next, we have the source folder right here. This is the source code of our application. In this, we have a component called the app component. Don't worry about the code yet. So this is what the app component looks like right now. Sorry, this one. Don't worry about the code yet. We are going to write everything down from scratch. All I want you to know right now is that in this application, we have a single component called as the app component. Now, outside this source folder, we have the index.html just below this right here. In this template, we have a div with the ID of root, and we have the source which has the address of main.tsx, right? Which is inside the source folder, the main.tsx right here. All right. Below we have the script element referring to as source main.tsx. Let me just all right. Yeah. All right. All right. So my laptop was facing some issues. Below we have a script element, and that script element has an element referring to as source main.tsx. This is the entry point for our application. After this, we have the package.json. This is nothing but this contains all the application details, the name, the version, the type, the scripts we are using, and the dependencies. So for now, we are dependent on these two libraries, React and React DOM. Again, for the most part, we don't need to uh, touch anything unless you are an advanced user. And finally, we also have the configuration file for Vite. Again, for the most part, you don't have to touch this file. Okay. Next, to create a React component, you can click on the source folder and click on new file, and then create a new component called as message.tsx. All right, we hit enter and we have created a new component. Now, how do we actually create it? We'll see that. So the extension for a TypeScript file should either be TS or TSX. We often use TS for plain TypeScript files, and TSX is generally used when you're creating a React component. Now, there are two ways to create a React component. We can use a JavaScript class or function, but functional based components have become more popular because of because they are, concise and easier to write. So that's what we'll use in this bootcamp. So here we can declare a function called as message. So in plain JavaScript, we were using camel casing, but here we're using Pascal casing. I'll tell you more about that in just a little bit. Pay attention. Okay, let's go ahead with Pascal casing only. Pay attention to how I have named this function. This starts with a capital letter, and every word in Pascal casing starts with a capital letter only. So l- let's say we write Pascal casing, all right, without a space. So let's say if we have two words here, every letter starts with a capital letter. So in this case, we have P capital and then C capital, all right? So we have created a function. Why is it important to follow the convention? Because both React and other developers expect us to follow that because everyone else is following that. It is a general convention because you might be reading someone else's code and someone else be reading your code. So if you are following a convention, it becomes easier to work in an environment. So in React application, whenever you want to create a functional component, always use Pascal casing. Now, inside this function, we need to describe how the UI should look like where we use this component. So let's say wherever we render this component, we want to render an H1 element with the message, let's say hello world. So we'll return an H1 component, and inside this, we want hello world. All right. Okay. Now the syntax may might make you a little confused. You might be thinking of you're writing HTML code in the middle of JavaScript, but this is not the correct. But this is not correct. The syntax here you see is called actually JSX. So this is JSX. Now, what is JSX? JSX stands for JavaScript XML. This code under the hood is going to be compiled as JavaScript. And now to use this, we need to export this as a default object in this module. So we write export default and message. All right, we hit save. Now let's go to our app component. So app.tsx. Now we are simply going to delete everything in this file and we are going to create an app function called app. And inside this, we are going to return a div. Inside this, we want to have our message. All right. So how we create a function, we write function, then Pascal casing, and then we have our app. Okay, we exported as capital message. All right. Inside this, we want to return a div element inside which we want to have our message. All right. So first, let us import our message component. So how do we import our message component? Import message from, sorry, dot slash message. All right. And then we'll not get an error. And we want to export this model as app. Export default as app. We hit save. All right. There is some issue. All right. Okay. Now, you might see this HMR written, and here we have our HMR, which stands for hot module replacement. So what Wheat under the hood monitors our changes. What Wheat does is it monitors under the hood our changes, and whenever we make any changes, it automatically refreshes our web page on the browser. And now you can see our message component rendered on the screen. And this is a very simple example. In real world, a component can have behavior. So here we can have a button, and when this button gets clicked, perhaps we can change the message, and we can do all sorts of things. So with JSX, we can easily describe our user interfaces with the help of HTML and JavaScript. Now, the great thing about JSX is that it easily allows us to create more dynamic content. For example, we can create a const here with the name of Ujjwal. So we can create a const by the name of Ujjwal. And then, all right, what is the error here? Mm, everything seems to be fine. And maybe we can also use an if statement. So if this name thing is true, then we want to return h1, and inside this h1 we want to write hello, and we can use curly braces to add dynamic content. So inside curly braces we can write anything that returns a value. So we can write a variable, we can write a function. So right now we are using a variable, we can maybe a const, we can also write something as a function as get name. All right. So anything that returns a value, we can write inside this. So right now we are using a const. So if name thing is true, return this markup, or else return, what do you want me to return? Hello world. All right. We hit save, and we hit save here also. Export default message. Okay. Yeah. So we have the constant name as Ujjwal. It is, if this name thing is true, it will return hello, and the dynamic content will be automatically filled here, and it returns Ujjwal. If let's say the string was empty, if this const was empty, we hit save, it would return hello world. So this is the beauty of JSX. Using this syntax, we can easily describe the user interface of our applications. And so how React works. Currently, we have this tree like structure with app being the root or the top of the component. And this message thing, this is basically the root or the top of our tree, and this message being the child. When React starts, React takes this component tree and builds a JavaScript data structure called as the virtual DOM. So just similar to a DOM, it will create a virtual DOM. Virtual DOM is different than the actual DOM. In the browser, it's lightweight and in memory representation of our component tree, where each node represents a component. All right. So there, each node used to represent an element. Here, each node is representing a component. Now, what happens is when we are making changes, so let's say there are multiple nodes inside that tree. When we are making some changes, it will create a copy of that virtual DOM. It will compare, and then it will start comparing. So it compares with the previous DOM. If there is a difference between some nodes, it will change that particular node only and not the entire tree. So this is how it is very light, and in memory representation also it is very good. Technically, updating the DOM is not done by React itself, but by a companion library called React DOM. So with this, we come to the end of today's bootcamp. I'll share you the attendance form right now. All right. Also, if you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I'll share my link as well. If you want to connect with me, talk to me. Yep, I've already shared the attendance form. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining. We'll connect again tomorrow, same time. We'll learn React and towards the depth of it, and then we'll start creating website using Lovable AI. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining.